Let the fun begin. You are now into phase 3 of the process and are just about ready to start looking at homes. First, however, I'd like to explain a little bit about the searching process. Other than a few homes for sale by their owners, virtually all properties available on the western half of Washington State are listed through the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. When a seller signs a listing agreement, their home is entered into the Northwest MLS system and immediately shows up as available to every real estate broker member of the NWMLS. The public, however, does not have direct access to the NWMLS database. That is where IDX, or Internet Data Exchange providers, come in. These providers have obtained approval to access a data feed from the Northwest MLS and have designed and programmed interfaces for the public to access. These data feeds are identical, so theoretically, every website that displays an IDX search solution should contain the exact same homes and information. For the most part, this is the case. However, some IDX providers do not update their feeds as often as others, and some are still showing homes that have already gone under contract with a buyer. In addition, providers vary greatly as to just what information from the databases they actually show and what parameters they provide for filtering search results. When you go to a web browser such as Google, Yahoo, or Bing and type in a search phrase such as homes for sale in Lacey or Olympia Real Estate, etc., you will be bombarded with literally hundreds of choices of sites that contain results for your search. Most of these sites have IDX search solutions on them and allow you to search through the results they have in their Northwest MLS data feed. The reason that real estate companies subscribe to these IDX solutions is to not only provide their customers with an interface to search for homes on, but more importantly, they use these systems to obtain buyer leads. Most all of them will eventually, if not right up front, ask you to register. There are good and bad points about registering. The good point is that you will then be able to save your various searches, save your favorite homes, and usually have the system send you updates whenever a home hits the market that meets one of your saved set of search parameters. The beauty about this is that you no longer have to go to a search site every single day just to see if anything new has come on the market. The system will email you a link or a table of homes every time something is listed within your parameters. The bad part of registering is that if you don't put a valid email address in, you can't take advantage of the advanced features made available through registration. In addition, putting a valid email address in will make you vulnerable to being contacted by various real estate brokers. Signing up on multiple IDX solutions can result in lots of different brokers contacting you, which can be quite annoying. Our state-of-the-art IDX system, which is updated many times every day, can be located at washingtonstatehomes.org. Once you've narrowed down the field to ones you are seriously interested in, it's time to let your broker know which ones you'd like to see, so he or she can make the arrangements to get you inside. On this page, I've provided an example of a form you could use to rate each house as you look at it. This form will be provided to you in your Burger Professionals buyer packet. Here's a great tip that I've found to be very helpful when looking at numerous homes. First, try to not look at more than 6 or 8 homes in one outing. They will all start looking alike. Second, only keep 3 homes in mind. If you go to a 4th house and like it better than one of the other 3, eliminate one from consideration. As you go through the day of looking, if you utilize this tip, you will end the outing with 3 possibilities. One of them just may stand out above the others so much that you decide to move forward to the purchase and sales stage. Oftentimes, however, the first outing will be a fact-finding mission for both you and your broker. It could be that everything aligns great and you end up buying a home that day. Or it could be that you find what you thought you wanted is not it at all, and you need to go back to the drawing board. That's okay. It's important that you get this right and are happy with your ultimate decision. For your broker, they will end up learning more about you and what you want, and will then have the ability to be more proactive in helping you find the right home. When you do find a home you'd like to buy, or one hits the market that looks like it's perfect, time is of the essence. You are not the only buyer looking for homes, and if you find one you really like, chances are that someone else is also out there who will find it. Although it's not always possible, what you want to try to do is avoid competing with other buyers for the same house. However, if you do, heed your broker's advice, and the fact that you have been pre-approved will certainly help your cause. The first order of business, before signing a purchase and sale agreement, is to make sure the home is actually still available. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of brokers and buyers getting all excited, sending an offer to the listing broker, and then finding out that it sold the previous day. Your broker should try to reach the actual broker who represents the seller to verify availability. What shows in the MLS can be a day or so old. Once a home goes under contract, the listing office is supposed to send in a change of status, but there is always a delay between when an offer is accepted and when this notice is posted. There are numerous things you will need to address when making an offer, and there are numerous forms to cover them. The thing highest on your mind would be what price to offer. If your broker is full-time and doing a fair amount of business and in the trenches of the business almost every day, they will typically have a good idea as to how well or how poorly a particular home is priced. In addition, they can do an online analysis through the Northwest MLS to bring up recent comparable sales to see just where the home should be priced at. However, unusual properties with views, waterfront farms, acreage, etc., are all quite unique, and it's hard to find comparables. These types of properties are also worth different amounts to different buyers. They're more of an emotional purchase. On this page, I've laid out some of the scenarios you could come up against, which may further complicate a decision as to how much to offer for a home. After this brief explanation of what you are going to see on the following pages, I will proceed to provide brief explanations as to what each page of this purchase and sale agreement example provides. The following pages depict a fictitious purchase and sale agreement. The sole purpose is to give you an idea of what you will eventually be signing. You should become familiar with the most common forms utilized in purchase and sale agreements. By reading through these forms, it will most likely answer a lot of questions you may have and even alleviate some of your concerns. Also, since time is of the essence whenever making an offer on a home, by becoming familiar with the forms and having your broker answer any questions you may have about them ahead of time, you will cut down the time it takes for your broker to prepare and explain the documents. The forms are drafted by attorneys and are meant to protect the interests of all parties involved in a transaction. Be aware, however, that each purchase and sale agreement is different. Some forms may or may not apply in a particular situation. You may be entering into a short sale situation as an example, which will require a short sale addendum. Your situation will be unique, and your real estate broker should prepare the agreement in such a way as to protect your interests. Particular wording and boxes you see checked do not necessarily depict how your purchase and sale agreement should be drafted. Also, the forms shown may have been modified since this tutorial was prepared. Your real estate broker will utilize the latest form revisions available. In addition, these forms are to be used only by authorized professional real estate brokers who are members of the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. Also, each county in Washington and some real estate companies may have unique forms that will need to be used. A purchase and sale agreement is comprised of the main agreement form, known as Form 21, followed by a series of addendums which will cover various aspects of the agreement in more detail. The very first page of Form 21, which you see here, lays out the basics of the offer and references any addendums that are part of the agreement. You have the names of the parties involved, the property address, tax parcel, and reference to the legal description. This is followed by what is included in the sale, the purchase price, earnest money deposit, and who will hold it, what happens in case of default, which title company is chosen, who is the closing agent, the closing date, possession date, and expiration date of the offer. In addition, there is reference to payoff of utility bills charges and assessments, and who represents who. The next 4 pages of Form 21 are what we call boilerplate. They don't change unless an addendum is attached to change an item on these pages. These pages talk more in detail about things such as the purchase price, earnest money and included items, plus title insurance, closing, and possession. They also go into closing costs and prorations, charges and assessments, computation of time, electronic signatures and faxes, and a number of other items like cancellation rights, assignment of the agreement, and professional's advice, among others. I suggest at some point you read these and ask your broker for further explanation if there is something you don't fully understand. The financing addendum sets forth the type of loan you are applying for, or will be applying for, and how much down payment you are providing. In addition, it goes into the seller's right to terminate the agreement under conditions where you don't perform according to certain criteria. There is a paragraph for situations where you need help with closing costs from the seller, and what happens to your earnest money should you not be able to obtain financing. It then goes into the seller's cooperation to allow for inspections, and what happens in the case the appraisal comes back with a value less than the sales price. It then goes into government regulations regarding appraisals when the loan is an FHA, VA, or USDA, outlines the purpose of the appraisal in regards to these types of financing, and talks about automatic extensions of the agreement should the lender need to reissue disclosures to the buyer because of a change in the interest rate, the loan product, or the addition of a prepayment penalty. The Identification of Utilities Addendum is meant to protect the buyer and the lender's lien position from getting stuck with utility bills the previous owner didn't pay. Municipal utilities, such as water, sewer, and sometimes garbage, can become liens on the property if not paid. The form also lets the new owner know who the utility companies are which serve the property. The Inspection Addendum allows for time to do an inspection on the home, along with the ability to do a neighborhood review and indicate whether you've already done an inspection or want to waive your right to an inspection. It lays out the time element for you to present your findings to the seller and ask for any repairs to be completed. Typically, unless the time elements are changed, you have 10 days from the date of mutual acceptance of the purchase and sale agreement to present an inspection response addendum where you will either approve of the inspection, cancel the agreement, or ask for certain repairs to be made. Depending on the results of the inspection, you also have the right to ask for a 5-day extension to allow for additional specific inspections your inspector may have recommended. Once you provide your response, the seller has 3 days to respond back to you. They can accept your proposal, accept only part of your proposal, reject your proposal, or propose a different proposal. You then have 3 days to accept the seller's response, reject the response and terminate the agreement, or reject the response and propose a different response. As with all aspects of the purchase and sale agreement, it is important to make sure you are in compliance with any deadlines for responses or performances provided for. The Optional Clauses Addendum is a catch-all addendum to cover a variety of miscellaneous things. It has a disclaimer about representation of square footage and lot encroachments and advises you to verify the lot size, square footage, and possibility of encroachments to your own satisfaction. It then talks about title insurance, the fact that the property and grounds need to be maintained until closing, what happens to items the seller may leave behind, utilities, new construction insulation disclosure, leased property, homeowners association review, excluded items, home warranty, and any other miscellaneous items that may need to be addressed. In cases where property you are buying is serviced by a septic system as opposed to sewer, this addendum provides for seller representations in regards to the septic system, maintenance records, and any conditions for pumping, inspections, and any fees, permits, or other requirements set forth by the county jurisdiction the property is located in. Likewise, if the property is serviced by a well of some kind, this well addendum provides for disclosure of the number of connections to the well, a seller's representation section, provisions for obtaining a health certificate, a well inspection contingency paragraph, and anything else that may pertain to the well that you want to add to the addendum. For homes built prior to 1978, It is required that the seller disclose anything they may or may not know about the presence of lead-based paint on the property. It also provides for you to either waive your right to an inspection for lead-based paint or have an inspection performed. It is also required that you be provided a copy of the Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home pamphlet. As with the entire purchase and sale agreement, including all addenda, it is important that you personally read and understand all documents you are signing. There is a central database referred to as CLUE, which stands for Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. A CLUE report provides dates of claims, insurance companies involved, the type of policy, whether loss was related to a named catastrophe such as a hurricane, location of the loss, the amount paid, and cause of the loss. The report goes back 5 years into the history of a property. You'll want to contact your home insurance company right away and ask them for a quote based upon receipt of a CLUE report. The homeowner insurance addendum, which should be part of your purchase and sale agreement, will protect you from buying a home that is saddled with high-risk insurance rates because of a claim. It will also provide you with information about a claim which could possibly cause you to reconsider the purchase of the home. Water damage and mold are issues that you need to be especially cautious of. You should read the homeowner insurance addendum carefully to understand what your rights and time frames are regarding homeowner insurance. The title contingency addendum provides for the buyer to disapprove to one or more exceptions on the preliminary commitment for title insurance within a specified period of time, and the seller to respond as to whether they will clear the issues objected to. Should they not agree or cannot afford to clear the issues, the buyer can then terminate the agreement. Also, should supplemental title reports disclose additional issues, the same thing will apply in regards to buyer's right to disapprove, etc. The escalation addendum is used quite frequently during seller markets, especially when homes are getting multiple offers. It provides for the buyer to agree to increase their offer in a stated amount over any other offer up to a certain limit the buyer sets. So, as an example, if a buyer has an offer in at $350,000 and another offer comes in at $355,000, and the first buyer has stated they will go up $2,500 more over any other offer and that they would pay up to $360,000, then their offer becomes $357,500, which is $2,500 more than the other offer of $355,000. Although page 1 of the purchase and sale agreement has a provision for agency disclosure, some brokers like to use a separate addendum, which also allows for acknowledgement that the buyer or seller signing this has received a copy of the Law of Real Estate Agency. While there are addendums pre-written which cover most every scenario, there are occasions where a separate blank addendum needs to be used. Sometimes it's used to simply clarify something further. Other times it's used to actually add additional terms and conditions to the agreement. It is very important to be clear in the drafting of wording for anything that is not pre-written on the standard purchase and sale forms and addendums, as it will be held to the standard of practice expected of a practicing attorney. Form 17, or the Seller Disclosure Statement, is required by state law. RCW 64.06 requires that this form be used in all transfers of residential real property, including multifamily dwellings up to 4 units, new construction, condominiums not subject to public offering statements, and certain timeshares. The buyer has 3 days to rescind the purchase and sale agreement after the seller provides a completed Form 17 to the buyer. If the seller fails to provide the form to the buyer as required, the buyer retains the right to rescind the contract at any time prior to closing. There are a few exceptions as far as having to provide one of these, and they're laid out on this page on the left. If you'd like to read more about this seller disclosure statement, I've provided 4 pages here that you can read and learn more about it. Following these 4 pages, you'll find an example of the actual Form 17. It does get revised from time to time, so when you buy your property, you should get the latest revision of this Form 17. Form 17 is technically not part of the purchase and sale agreement, but is one of the disclosures, some of which are required by the government to be provided to the buyer. The next one you see here is the law of real estate agency, which we did cover in the past, but I did include it here again because it is something that must be given to the buyer. This next one, for your protection, get a home inspection, is a government-mandated form that we must give to the buyers that are going through an FHA loan. Washington state law requires that a real estate broker who refers a home inspector to a buyer or seller with whom the broker has a current or past relationship, including but not limited to a business or family relationship, fully disclose in writing to the buyer or seller the nature of that relationship. If a home was built prior to 1978, it is required that the buyer be provided with this EPA pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. I haven't provided the full pamphlet here, but you will receive one should you put an offer on a home built prior to 1978. The Mold, Moisture in Your Home is another EPA pamphlet that goes in depth into the issue of mold and moisture. It is a very lengthy pamphlet, so I've only included the cover for reference. There is a growing issue with fraud regarding purchase and sale agreements and the wiring of funds to the escrow company. People have been scammed out of huge sums of money when they get a fraudulent email with instructions on how to wire their funds, supposedly to the escrow company, but in reality it's someone else's bank account. Therefore, we provide this notice to our customers so they will be aware to watch out for this should they be wiring funds.